Alright, welcome to Speed Mechanics Mind Dump Monday. This is something new that I wanted to give a shot with. I've never really done these sorts of videos before, but I've been collecting a lot of information and I want to start to share that with you. So today I want to talk a little bit about Speed Reserve, what it is, and why it's important for athletes in general to think about and consider within their training. So Speed Reserve is talking about the idea that if we've got your max speed here at whatever this is, then everything below this line here is considered submaximal, right? So in training, our goal is to try to raise this ceiling up through max velocity training. We want to do high speed sprints. We want to get above that sort of speed in order to raise the ceiling. What usually happens in practice and in most people's training is they spend a lot of time down here in this sort of medium intensity work. So say this here is that's a little generous, but say here is your sort of aerobic threshold, then spending time down here is going to be for recovery. These are like easy jogs, so like some very easy runs. You know, if you're a soccer player doing some ball work or skill work, or like it's a really easy practice. You know, this is going to be more your anaerobic zone here. This would be moderate sort of intensity where you're really tired, you're huffing and puffing, but you're not getting faster because we're not challenging that ceiling. If we put a cutoff line there at say 90%, so this would be 70%, 75% in here. This would be that sort of no man's land, that moderate intensity. So it's not fast enough to challenge your ceiling, but it's not slow enough that it's aerobic that you can recover from this. So this is where a lot of practice ends up sitting. Some of it is going to be lower, more aerobic. If you're doing a lot of ball work, a lot of technical work, this is going to be in your aerobic zone. If you're doing a lot of like tactical, small-sided games where maybe they're in confined areas and you're not really stretching it out a lot, then that's where you're spending most of your time, and it's above that aerobic zone, so it's really hard to recover from it. It'd be like a strength session where you need sort of 48 hours to recover from that to be ready for the next high intensity session, but you're not getting the benefit of challenging that max speed ceiling. So rather than doing this, spending your time in there, the idea with the Speed Reserve is that we challenge this. We spend more time in this tiny little area up here above 90%. We try to boost this ceiling up, and then so if we look at here, you've got, this is your 90%, I'd say 6.5 meters per second. This is the speed. We want to take that and we want to boost that up. So now your 90%, this goes up, right? So your ceiling now is say 7.5 meters per second. 90% now, it's going to be here at 6.8 meters per second. So now your 90% is just above your previous 100%. So we boosted that up, but not only that, that aerobic line here at 75% has now gone up as well. So where 75% maybe there, now 75% is here. So if we draw that across, you've now boosted your aerobic abilities. So now, where you were jogging around before at say maybe 5.5 meters per second, now you're jogging around at 6 meters per second. That's a big difference. That means you're able to get into position faster and spend less energy getting there, which is the whole point, right? Most of the game of soccer, for example, is spent at a jogging pace. So if you're now able to jog faster without getting yourself tired, without getting into this sort of aerobic zone, then you're able to get there faster, do it more often, and not tire out as easily, right? You can recover from that much more easily. And then compared to your opponent, you're going to be able to, you'll have more speed now to challenge for balls, those 50-50 balls, where you need to make the score. You need to break away from your check. You need to break in for that breakaway pass. That's where games are won and lost. So if we can increase your speed, you're going to be harder to defend against. So an example, one of my athletes, a tactical athlete, had to do the POPAT test this weekend. She came to me and our focus was on speed development because there's a large speed component or sprint component to the POPAT test, where you have to do 6 laps, and each lap is about 20 to 23 seconds in a fast time, with the whole thing taking about 4 minutes, 3:45 say to 4:15 for a pass. You have to hit 4:15 or less to pass. So we spent a lot of time focusing on her speed development because she never played sports before, and she had no running introduction to running or running mechanics or anything like that. So she was brand new, and we spent quite a long time on that, and then focused in on the POPAT after some rehab. And within a couple of months, we got her to her first test, where she unfortunately failed the strength portion of it. There's a very technical aspect to the push-pull machine and footwork that's required, and we don't have, they're a hard machine to come by, so we didn't have the ability to practice on the machine at the time, and that unfortunately caught her up. But her times for the first 6 laps were 1, she did 19 seconds on the first lap, 2 was 21 seconds, 3 was 20 seconds, 4 was 23 seconds, 5 was 21 seconds again, and then 6 was 22 seconds for a total time of about 2:18, I believe. So she absolutely killed this. She destroyed this. Now, unfortunately, again, she got caught up in footwork and the technical requirements of the push-pull machine. So she took a month, kind of dropped down a little bit from training, and then we ramped back up for another test a couple months later, where I jerry-rigged some sort of device using a landmine press to kind of mimic a push-pull machine. Not really, but just the ability that she could practice in this sort of, it's sort of a pivot here, and you have to arc back and forth. So using the landmine press, we loaded it up to something that felt heavy to her. In the test, it's 85 pounds, and she just moved holding it at her chest and then trying to kind of carry it in an underhand grip. But she was able to practice sidestepping and not crossing over, which is what messed her up in the first place. But the next test, she came in, we still kept doing speed work. We just focused really on the second half on footwork. She maintained her speed, and then in her words, she shedded a lot of speed off the second test, and her numbers looked like she hit 21 seconds here, 23 seconds, 25 seconds, 28 seconds, 25 seconds, and 25 seconds roughly. So she finished, here was about 2:18, here was about 2:30. So she dropped significantly in time, but she said that she basically jogged through it so that she saved more energy so she developed her own strategy just from one initial bout to save more energy for the push-pull so she could focus her time and effort on making sure that she had the energy requirements to do that. So we built up her speed. She killed the speed component the first time. The second time, she was able to back off substantially, having done it one bout before. So by doing that, we built up her ceiling high enough, much higher than what she actually needed to complete the test, so that she could do the test, back off, and focus on the part that was most challenging to her, and she knocked it out of the park on the next one. Now for a soccer player, a rugby player, baseball player, we want to boost this ceiling up so that your work capacity also goes up. Everything else below that becomes easier. The whole game becomes easier. Just performing your skills and your technical work within the game is going to become easier because you're expending less energy for the same sort of tasks. Now you can do them at a faster rate. Your brain works faster because you're moving faster. So you can perform those skills at a faster speed. But you also can recover at a faster speed because that 75%, that aerobic speed is also going to increase with that ceiling. So my point here, we want to spend a lot more time focusing on this, and we want to spend a lot less time focusing on this sort of no man's land where we spend most of our time. Most athletes, and I was guilty of this myself as a speed skater, as a hockey player, as a soccer player, I spent a lot of time here. This never went anywhere until I started to focus on it, and that's where the magic happens. So, if you want to figure out more, if you want to learn more about Speed Reserve, DM me, write in the comments below, but if you want training, shoot me a message. We've got lots of training at speedmechanics.ca. Check us out on Facebook, on Instagram,